2025. If I could please get a motion to approve the minutes as they are. Let's see. Can't see everybody here right now. Oh. Sorry. Okay, I see Harry. And can I get a seconder?
Did you mean the agenda, Marta?
Sorry. Did I read the agenda? Yes.
Or sorry, I was just asking if you meant the agenda or minutes. I didn't see any minutes.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I meant.
Okay.
Yes, I meant the agenda for today. Yeah, we don't have any minutes to approve today. So,
Thanks,
yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, so, okay, thank you, Angie, for seconder. Okay, so all in favor for, yeah, okay, for proceeding, good. Okay, that's great. Okay, so we only have one presentation today, and that's for 3679 Shenton Road. And Lanya, our manager of current planning, will introduce the project, followed by the presentation, and then the panel will have the opportunity to ask questions. And afterwards, we will provide comments, recommendations, and then we will vote on those recommendations. So I'll hand you over to Lanya. Lanya, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just before I begin, for everyone joining this evening, if you can just have your screen turned on and just if you can please display your full name for the purposes of the minutes record keeping, that'd be great. Thank you. And so development permit application number DP 1397 is for a mixed use development with office space and 17 residential units at 3679 Shenton Road. This is within the existing corridor residential or Core 1 zone. The property is designated within development permit area number 4, abandoned mine workings hazards, and development permit area number 8, form and character. So the city's form and character design guidelines apply. There's a number of variances that have been identified and may need to be confirmed as we go through the detailed application review. But just to go over them quickly, there is a request to increase the principal building height from 14 to 15 meters, unless the minimum threshold of 75% parking is provided beneath the building, in which case height may be increased to 18 meters. There's a proposed increase in the accessory building height for the amenity pavilion from 4.5 meters to 5.7 meters. An increase to the allowable projections for portions of the building into the front yard setback from 1 meter to 2 meters, and the west side yard setback from 0.75 meters to 1.2 meters. And also to increase the maximum permitted office floor area from what the bylaw limits at 1,000 square meters to just over at 1,043 square meters with a portion on the second story. There's also a request to reduce parking, and this is one that we're just working to understand better. The bylaw with the full parking requirement would be as much as 71 spaces, and they're currently showing 51 spaces with a portion located within the front yard setback area. Another variance is looking at the loading space depth to reduce from 10 meter depth to 5.8 meters. And then lastly, just possibly another administrative variance in terms of the building setback from the front property line. The Core 1 zone has a maximum front yard setback of 6.0 meters, and I believe there's a portion possibly at 6.5. So again, just some details to sort out. I'm happy to take any questions following the applicant's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lanya. And who will be presenting this evening?
And Selena Kwok,
Selena?
Jackson Lowe, and Selena
Jackson.
Kwok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, please share your screen when ready.
Wait, just down here. Oh, here it is. Right.
So we don't, we do Teams meetings, so just to find out where all the buttons are.
Okay.
Apologize.
Can,
Okay.
okay.
Anyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for having us this evening. Just want to have provide some opening remarks. About a little over 20 years ago, we did the design work for Winley's head office next door, along with Herald Engineering and another additional building in 2007 on the west side of that site. So here we are again. Winley has obviously grown and needed to house all their people in one location. So they had purchased this land adjacent to their current office space and had asked us to provide a design that would incorporate their main office and some residential units on the second and third floor. The site is a bit of an interesting site. There's some constraints on it. It slopes a fair bit from front to back. There's the lake in the back, which provides gorgeous views. There is a riparian area near the water that we need to stay away from, and there's some existing right-of-ways along the middle of the property that we're trying to deal with in terms of either relocating or how we improve it to be able to make the development viable for the client. Having said that, Selena Kwok will provide the additional details of the design for you, and here she is.
Okay, thanks, Jackson. Okay, so I'll just briefly, Jackson sort of already touched base on that, so just give a brief overview of the context. So the property, Divers Lake, Shenton Road, and then these are the existing buildings that Jackson did some odd years ago, light industrial on the east side. So a couple of photos from kind of Shenton Road, all these kind of tall trees, I guess that's the property. This is the offices next door. So this gives sort of an idea of kind of the surrounding area. And this is the overall site plan. And as mentioned before, that there is quite a big difference in the grading from the front of the property to the back, roughly 6 to 7 meters. So the goal for us was to set the main floor height so that it was as low as possible so that we could minimize some of these retaining walls at the back of the site. So the building is set along the west property line with the main entrance that you step down to for the main office on the lower floor, and then the residential access would be on this side adjacent to the surface parking. So we've got 29 surface parking spots along the east, which also acts as a nice buffer between the residential building and the sort of light industrial use of the adjacent property. And then at the south end of the site, there's a common area pavilion used by the occupants, where it is connected with a bridge and boardwalk. This is just a closer look at the site plan. And the underground parking, so we have 22 underground parking spots, and also there's storage, electrical mechanical room, bike room, and then a shower facility for the office staff. On the main floor, as noted, that the main entrance off of Shenton Road. This is the elevator lobby for the residential units above, and a large expansive main floor area for all the office uses, and large offices at the end facing south towards Divers Lake. The second floor has 8 residential units And as mentioned earlier, 4 executive offices on the second floor that will give a nice view, look out to the south, and a mix of studio, 1 bedroom, and 2 bedrooms. The upper floor has stacking units and then a larger kind of penthouse unit, I would say. That's like 2 bedroom plus den, which also has its own private deck with the trellis at the top. So that's for a total of 17 units over the 2 floors. So, and then these are the elevations. So the top one is the north elevation, which is from Shenton Road. And that's the existing sort of West Coast modern type design. And the goal was to sort of fit into the form and character of the neighboring buildings. So we've kind of kept with the West Coast modern and added some industrial elements with metal panels and metal kind of details along the canopy. And with the lower level, you can see from the east elevation, we've used sort of a forest screen, cementitious panels, and then the upper 2 levels with the residential would be wood grain pattern, and the elevator vertical element with a natural stone finish. And to break up kind of the horizontal look of the building, we've got sloped roofs that would create a nice vaulted ceiling for the upper levels, and with some vertical columns and kind of a large bay area where we can open up the living area with lots of glazing. And along here, as you can see, as the slope or the site slopes, we can situate the pavilion that's connected by the bridge at the lower end of the site. So the south elevation, you'll get a view of the entrance to the parkade and some of the retaining walls that later on we'll have a look at the landscape plans to see how that's being buffered by some nice landscaping. The west elevation, oh, and one more thing with the south elevation to help with solar heat gain. We've got lots of large overhangs to help with the shading decks and the trellis. And with the west elevation, we're limited by windows because of the limiting distance. So you'll notice that the windows are a bit smaller, but being on the west side, that's probably not a bad thing. Again, the solar heat gain on that side. And here you can also see the canopy for the main entrance, kind of leading people into the office space. These 2 are the site sections. So property line for the west property, surface parking, and then the 3-story building. Along this one, you can see the way the site slopes with the parking access down here, ramping up to roughly this area would be at grade at the street level. So we step down into the building at that area. And you can see where the vaulted ceilings are for the upper levels. And this here is the pavilion design that's inspired by the mining and railway infrastructure. So the design utilizes like a blend of West Coast and industrial modernism with the tilted columns and tilted beams, and that's carried throughout the overall main building design. The material palette reflects the natural colors and textures that's inspired by the lake setting. So we have the wood grain elements, lots of wood columns and beams, and then the soffit for the canopies would also be in wood. 4 screen cementitious panels, and adding texture would be metal panels that's in the same color, and of course the natural stone for the elevator vertical element. The next page shows some 3D views, the main entrance canopy with some metal details, entrance to the residential lobby that's connected with a unified canopy that connects to the main entrance. This is the surface parking area, south elevation, and the same kind of canopy language for the side staircase, and that leads down to the boardwalk along here to the pavilion that's at the end of the property. And this is a view from the lake side of the building. And then I will also talk about the landscape design, or try to. So unfortunately, Kate Stefiak with Kinship Design Art Ecology was not able to make it today. So she's left some notes for me, and I'll be going through some of the key features and elements in the landscape design and how the project supports the City of Nanaimo's aspirations for design as captured in the official community plan, new form and character guidelines, and other regulations. So the general approach to the landscape is inspired by the site's proximity to Divers Lake and how the location creates a unique opportunity to reinforce a strong sense of place for development in this part of Nanaimo. So at the Shenton Road streetscape, there's a small entry court with concrete seat walls and sandstone boulders, which helps activate the street front or frames the commercial entry. So street trees are along here, along Shenton, they're situated within layered plantings of evergreen, deciduous, indigenous, and complementary ornamental shrubs and perennials. And this sort of layered strategy kind of works its way around and is also, used for the west and the east property line. So that creates a nice buffer for the residential units up top. And in addition, there's also a fencing along the south part of the property that gives extra privacy. And then moving towards sort of the rear, there's a series of stepped concrete walls, retaining walls that creates a transition to the rain garden, which is just below the bridge of the pavilion. So there's a restoration planting along here, and ultimately the protected riparian area along this area here. So the grade changes creates this nice opportunity for us to have the pavilion, and that overlooks Divers Lake. And the restoration planting that's along this area incorporates the plants that are identified in the riparian areas assessment report completed by Top and Associates. So altogether, actually I got one more thing here. So this is a view from Divers Lake looking back to the building and just showing the planting and the layered look that helps kind of provide a buffer between the concrete walls, and that sort of hides it when you're looking back from the lake. And so the intent behind the landscape design is to strengthen the sense of place for Nanaimo, while also abiding by the city's new form and character guidelines for landscape and advancing the city's plan relating to biodiversity and ecological resilience while conforming to relevant requirements and regulations. Yep. And that's it for us. I'm just gonna stop that.
Okay, thank you, Selena, and thank you, Jackson. Before we proceed, does anyone on the panel have any questions for the city? Okay, in that case, we will proceed with questions, and comments, and recommendations from the panel, starting with Angie. Whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, great presentation. Thanks for going through all of that with us. I think that the building fits really well into that area. It really complements the buildings that are already there, kind of ties into elements of some of the industrial stuff down the way, and then also the more natural looking buildings to the north, or I guess maybe just up the road, I guess. I'm not sure if it's actually north, but yeah, it fits really well in, and it looks, really natural. with the lake there and everything. I think that's really important. And of course, there's a pavilion on the other side of the lake looking over this way, so it'll be nice to have that really natural looking building there. Just a couple of comments for this one. I don't think I have any issues with the variances. Um, this is a great site. It's really close to the ENN trail for bikes. So in terms of parking, I think there's an opportunity there. I think bird-friendly glazing might be an important aspect here, especially at that tree level, because you do have the lake and yeah, there's um, lots of birds there. One question I did have is I didn't see any short-term bike parking that's designated for the residential suites, and I wasn't sure if I maybe missed that or if it's just kind of one shared area.
Area. I think the bylaws only required for the development, I think 6 stalls or something, and they're all located in one location.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there might be an opportunity there, like with having the lesser parking, maybe expecting more bikes, so maybe having a bit of additional short-term parking for that office space might be helpful. But just yeah, something to consider as kind of the final details of layout are ironed out. And then for the pathway to the pavilion, I'd noticed that it had the stairs down from the building, and then there's a designated pathway. I know it's tricky because I think this is a challenging site. It's a narrow site to work with, but if there was an opportunity to connect that up to the main entrance to just provide a little more ease for the residential tenants and also have it be accessible, I think that would be, really add a lot of value to the site. So something to consider. I know it's a challenging site, and I'm sure you probably looked at that, but
Yeah, we did. It would be at the cost of more parking spots that we would give up, and we're already sort of challenged with trying to meet the requirements, and we're already in conversation with Lania about how we provide even more parking currently, and we do have a possible solution to get up to 57
Yes.
57 stalls, which is what would make this work. But if we lost those ones, then it'll be even more of a challenge, and I think that would throw us in a bit more of a loop unless the city's willing to give us a relaxation on that total amount. Then
Right.
we can connect it up to that entrance as well, but we're a bit challenged that way.
Yeah, it is. I know the Big Well, and I know it's a tricky site to work with. I mean, maybe even if there's an option to, instead of having the stairs there, having a bit of a ramp there instead along the side of the building, where it might be able to tuck in a little bit more behind where there's a bit of I think landscaping right now, but maybe something just to kind of add a little more access to it. But yeah, something to consider as it goes through. Yeah, I think the only other comment I had is just to consider opportunities to source materials locally as you're kind of finalizing what those materials are. That'd be great to if there's some wood elements or something that we can or that can be gathered locally. I think that's a really great advantage. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Okay, Harry?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Yeah, this is looks like a really nice project. I like all the elevations. They're great. I'm okay with the variances. The only elevation that could use some work is the north highway facing elevation. It's kind of visually flat, and it's on a corridor. So guidelines for DP8 forming character 2318, avoiding blank or monoliths walls facing public corridors and enhancing them with facade treatments or lighting. 3333, integrating art, cultural expressions, or design features that add visual interest along corridor frontages. And 2443, using pedestrian scaled energy efficient lighting to enhance appearance without glare. I actually made up a little before and after so you could kind of see what the difference would be. If you wouldn't mind me sharing my screen for a second. Okay, so there's your before and the after. I think that that looks visually from the highway. It's a big difference, in my opinion. So that is my only comment for this. Other than that, uh, those subtle changes would make a big difference on the highway side. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Is Dushan in today? No. Okay, Jessica, please.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. This is a very ambitious project. The site has been in a development phase for a while. I remember when the house was there. I live very close to Diver Lake, so I know the area. And I do have a couple of questions. One is regarding the current trees, like the vegetation that is there. In this development, is there any retention of the existing trees? I see.
Oh, I think
I think there.
I'm sorry, this I think would be a question for the
Architect.
yeah, she's not
or
here.
anyone who might know. It was unclear as I was going through the plans whether there was an indication as to existing and retained trees or not. So I'm just wondering if
Definitely in obviously the areas where we can't touch let me just have a quick.
There's a bit of a triangle where at the bottom of the development where we've got the stormwater retention and the gazebo off to I think the east corner. Those trees are going to be retained because trying to keep as many as we can.
okay.
But unfortunately, with the requirement for the parking and trying to fit the building in on a slightly narrower site, those were the ones that we're trying to keep the ones down there. Yeah, those ones around. Yeah, all those around there.
Okay. I mean, I'm aware that it's a very there was a very small house there before, and now there's a big. So there's going to be a clear cut. But I was just curious if there was in your design an attempt to keep any tree that is able to stay around the building.
I think there always is, for sure.
I think the other consideration was a lot of them were just sort of not great, healthy evergreen type trees, and the plan is the replacement of those trees that we're showing will give it a lot more character and a lot more diversity in that area. So it's not without understanding, trying to make the spaces a lot more greener. It's always with that effort, and thus the coloration of the buildings and so on that try to at least take on that character without being bold and brash all at one time. So there was always the consideration, but once you start getting the programmatic considerations and how we fit everything in, unfortunately, some of the other trees had to go.
Thank you for explaining that and showing me again that there is the opportunity to maybe retain a couple. Other comments were in line with what previous members have said. Expanding bicycle storage, I think if that's an option anywhere on the site, that would be really important. Trying to encourage alternative forms of transportation and being right on the E&N trail. The sharing of the bike rack between the residential and the business users of the building, that may not be enough. And I just wanted to clarify too that they're separate entrances. The main entrance is for the business, and then the smaller side entrance is for the residential tenants. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then on the parkade level, I was curious about the bike storage. In that level, is that level accessible to all users in the building, the residents and the business users, or is it just for residents? And is that bike storage available to everybody or just residents?
I believe it's available for everybody.
Yeah, because there's requirements for both residential and office long-term storage. So it's for both.
Okay, so that bike storage downstairs will then be for tenants as well as any
Staff, yeah.
staff. Okay. Again, I just think that a good trade-off for losing some parking stalls is
Extra parking.
creating more bike storage. And then I have a question again regarding the residential units. Are they designed to be part of the rental market, or will they be condo ownership?
Rental market at this point, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And my last concern has already been voiced as well, and that's just in regards to the glazing. Diver Lake is transitioning into more of a wetland, and I think that the south facade glazing is beautiful for views, but I feel like it's just really important to consider the potential for bird strikes, and that glazing is, I don't know what the solutions are for bird proof or safe glazing, but I think it's really, really important on that facade. It's just really expansive. Maybe even doing something, if it were possible, to reduce the glazing size on that facade. I know that lake well, and I think that that's going to be a big issue with that elevation and that design. So, yeah, glazing. And also, I mean, as far as solar heat gain goes, windows can only provide so much R value. So living in a space like that would be very could be very difficult to make it comfortable energy efficiently. So just the glazing on that window that facade could be revisited for a couple of reasons. Thank you. Those are my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And Kate? Sorry, we can't hear you, Kate.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. There's some really great aspects in there. Couple of things. I think I want to ask, I didn't see any amenity space, indoor or outdoor. I guess there's the pavilion for the residential units. Is there any?
The amenity space is the outdoor amenity space.
The outdoors, so that's the pergola is the amenity space?
Yes.
Okay. So I think based on that, I would recommend with the new design guidelines, just with the number of the residential units, recommend considering, that roof deck will be a beautiful view. So recommend considering a amenity space on the top of that roof area. And if not on the roof area, then I would also recommend then considering, based on the proximity to the lake and the habitat, considering a green roof in this situation, especially given the fact that the site is going from low impermeability to quite a bit of a high impermeable amount. I think there's a few things that could be done to minimize the environmental impact of this development. And one would be a green roof. The other one I'd recommend considering would be permeable paving in the, at least in the parking stalls. So that way that amount of runoff is reduced. I love that there's a rain garden feature. I'm concerned that the heavy metals of cars and everything is draining from the parking lot into the that area. So permeable pavers would help with that. I second the comment about mature tree retention. I appreciate the constraints of the parking stalls. I wonder, was it considered doing a second level below ground of underground parking to meet the requirements, but also to reduce the amount of surface parking on this site?
There was a look at it, but it would take a fair bit to get more at the amount of parking, and it would be cost prohibitive to do that, especially when it's so close to the water. There's a groundwater table to be considered. Then you got to tank the structure, and that's a whole huge other cost to consider. So, and when you're providing a second level, you spend a lot of effort in terms of the circulation versus providing the parking. So you're going to lose some on the main level to be able to get to a second level, and then how much benefit do you get from the second level? And then you got to also you will wind up being underneath the existing paved parking, and then you're going to have issues with waterproofing and everything else. So they were all considered, but it's just becomes cost prohibitive at that point.
Yeah. So then the request in the parking variance, is that based on the max number you can fit on site, or is there a number that you've identified would be needed for this sort of development, considering that it is an office and proximity to transit? I guess my pointed question is like, why not request a larger variance and reduce the amount of surface parking? You know, like, is that
Well,
like, you know, like I know you spoke about adding a few more stalls, but from an environmental standpoint, based on its site location, why not request a few less and retain a few trees, or, you know, something like that, you know?
I think we try to find a balance between what the zoning bylaws require of us and what makes sense to the use of the property, and then what the practicality of less parking in this area is.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that Shenton Road and connecting to Wellington and all that, it's all vehicular traffic to get from one place to the other. And it's important to have, at least try to have as much parking for vehicular traffic, because at the end of the day, that's more than likely what's going to happen. Also, the fact that they run a business as well, and it's active area, people coming and going, that we want to make sure that there's enough parking for that purpose. As far as the sort of reduction, I think in discussions with the planning department, we're looking at the possibility of sharing parking between the commercial and residential portions, and why we're looking at possibly adding a few more is to hit that magic number that will allow us to reduce it to the numbers that we're going to have to meet that the city's requirements. So unless somebody can blanket say, don't worry about the number of parking stalls, the other things are more important, and the city will agree to it, then it's very hard for us to sort of evaluate and determine what is workable and what is not.
Yeah, of course. No. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay. Well, I guess my recommendation would be, since you're already applying for a variance, maybe consider adding an additional fewer spots.
We'll have a discussion with Laney.
Perfect. And then the last one, just a minor one. I appreciate the design guidelines. It looks like from your render, you can't actually see the building facade wall, which I appreciate you're doing a stepped planter to reduce that. But if that's the case that you can't visually see that wall, then adding a step in that planter from a environmental standpoint, cost as well as the practicality of that small amount of landscape doesn't really make sense. So I would recommend confirming you can't see that large wall, and if you can't, then recommend removing that step in the planter wall facing the lake.
Yeah,
I think we have to see what the maximum height, because there's a maximum height that we have to adhere to for retaining wall. It's 3 meters. Right?
We still have to have a guardrail, right? Either way, right? So
yeah, that's
but that's on top of the maximum 3 meters. So we just have to make sure we don't hit that.
Yeah. So if possible,
Yeah, definitely have a look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything else looks great. Thanks.
Thank
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Kate. And Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you very much. Is the sound okay? It feels really echoey in here, but I don't know. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I think it's a interesting looking building, and in a good way. And I like that it's a mixed use, being the business headquarters and residential. I concur with the staff comments around the glazing, and I really appreciate the panel comments so far. I don't think I actually have anything that doesn't double up on what's been said already. But yes, the connections to the island corridor and active transportation link there is certainly important. So making sure that there's like bike parking, and I think that also speaks to why the parking variance is certainly, to me, acceptable in this case. Harry, I really liked your building rendering there. Thanks for putting in the time on that. I do think that made the frontage of the building more appealing, and I'm not sure what the proponent may do with that, but I appreciate the time that you put into that, Harry, and I think that was a nice suggestion for sure. And other than that, I appreciate this coming forward, and I think there's really excellent comments from this panel. Honestly, I'm impressed around the permeable paving and the comments around the vegetation and the tree retention, if possible. So thank you, everyone, for your work.
Thank you, Councillor Eastmere. Okay, so with those comments, I just have a question. And again, thank you very much, Selena and Jackson. I think it's a very interesting project. It's a great site. A question for you regarding the offices. How many offices are there in total? I kind of quickly scanned through. There's at least 30.
Just scan through this.
I counted at least 36. I know there's the 4 nicer ones above, and then there's a whole bunch below, but.
Yeah, there's 4 up top, and then there's.
It's gone back and forth.
Yeah.
It's okay, you don't have to, yeah.
So I feel like we'd have to count also.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's 27 around this way, and then this is sort of open office area, so, you know.
And another 4 upstairs.
Yeah. So
24, 20, 36.
roughly 36.
Yeah, that's how many I counted as well.
Guys, the one thing about the center area ones that in the middle right there, those are kind of like future. Like because we've already outgrown this building, we're trying to future-proof for the future. Like we don't need this. Like currently we have probably the need for about 22, but want flexibility for the future more than anything. I know we still need to deal with parking and all that, but at the point, we're not going to have that whole middle area filled at this point, and a lot of the ones around the outside will most likely be, or a handful of them will be touchdown spots, which are for some of our outside staff that tend to come in and do a little bit of work, just to do like a couple hours worth of work a day. So we're not going to be fully occupied and stuffed full right off the beginning. It'll probably take a handful of years if we even get to that point.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. So approximately 22 kind of filled spaces and leading up to 36 over the next 5 years or so, approximately. And then about 17 units, is that what I got for residential? Okay, so my recommendation would be to consider taking, consider adding a half floor to the parkade so you can meet the parking requirements in the higher side if possible. And was there a traffic study done?
No,
it was not.
and I think our intent is to try to meet the 57 spots and not have to ask for variance.
Okay.
So we'll work with Lania on that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you. And then the other thing is just to echo the city's comments about the exposed foundation walls on the lake side. I know with the landscaping, the goal is to, with the step planting wall and everything, to conceal it over time. But for the first few years while the planting is coming in, it's going to be a lot of concrete. So I would like to echo the staff's comments about putting something, a cladding on top of that so that it's not so stark. Okay.
Personally, I don't have an issue with concrete. We're in a light industrial area, sort of a mixed use area, and the materials sort of reflect the sort of general area, and over time, it's going to get moss on it. It's going to get a little dirtier because it's on because of where it's at, and once the vegetation grows, it's sort of a redundancy to have to put and spend money on a cladding that's gonna not make much use after a few years. That's sort of our take on it. There's beauty in concrete as well, so.
Yes, and certainly there are finishes that can be done with concrete that add interest, but right now it's just plain. So it would be nice to consider something to make it a little bit less of a monolithic face.
We could look at board form concrete or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, Jackson, the renderings actually there's less concrete than's shown. It's basically it starts at a single height, and then up as it goes up towards the road from the Herald side, it tapers down to next to nothing. If we're going to do anything with the concrete, what we could do is suggest doing concrete chamfering at the joints and create a more of a pattern like we would on our normal retaining walls. A rough, smooth finish. We could put some verticals every 4 feet or so on the panel joints and run a couple horizontals just to break up a mass. But I think between Jackson and Selena, we could probably provide some better ideas to deal with the concrete, and I echo their comments about concrete and the mix with what we've got going on, that it's not going to be overly obtrusive to anyone, even from the lake. So not many people are going to see the concrete walls that are exposed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like in total we have 15 recommendations, and then if I could ask the panel to kind of engage and pop in if and help me out if I'm getting something wrong, or if you'd like to add something, and if the team could please stop sharing their screen so I could see everybody, that'd be great. Thank you very much. Okay, so first recommendation is consider bird-friendly glazing. Second recommendation, consider short-term bike parking, more of it. And this is third one, consider connecting the path to the front entrance, or changing the stairs to a ramp to make things more accessible. Angie, if you'd like to expand on that.
Yeah, no, I think what you have is great, and there's different ways that they can do that through the parking lot there, but yeah, I think we'll leave it to them to see what the options are there.
Okay. And Angie, would you like to keep the recommendation to source materials locally? Is that something that's within?
I don't think that has to be a recommendation. That can just be, yeah.
Okay, it's just a food for thought. Okay, so then the fourth recommendation is consider adding more relief or artwork or additional lighting to the north highway-facing elevation. Okay. Number 5, consider retaining more of the mature trees. Number 6 piggybacks onto point 9, which is consider more long-term bike parking. Number 7, consider reducing window glazing on the lake side. Now, and Jessica, did you want to just expand on that a little bit? It is a beautiful element of the building. But did you have any particular areas where you'd like to see some opacity or anything like that?
Not really. I know on the third level, there's a vaulted ceiling, so the glazing, it's unclear from the renderings if it is sort of like floor to ceiling. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell how much of that wall in the third floor unit, which I guess is the penthouse unit is glazed, and whether it was just a question of if it were possible to reduce the area of that glazing for reasons of, bird safety and solar heat gain without losing the view. I don't know what the height of that facade would be from the interior. And again, I don't even know if it's all glass, but if it were, it would be a possibility to look to reduce that glass size just for safety.
Okay, so would you feel comfortable looping this recommendation in with the bird-friendly glazing to say, okay, we can, if we can keep with the bird-friendly glazing, maybe don't have to reduce as much of the glazing? Or do you feel like this is?
Yeah, I guess it was coming
It's up to
from
you.
not knowing whether that that third story facade was like a curtain wall. Is it all glass? And if it were, reducing it without losing views for the reason of energy efficiency and bird safety. That's all. So they can be linked together as long as we're also addressing the energy efficiency aspect of expansive glazing.
Okay, so in this case, if it's all right with the panel, I'd like to keep it as a separate point because the city has brought up managing solar heat gain and loss through shading, and so we can just consider the window glazing, reducing it, and or consider reducing the window glazing and solar heat gain and loss management options. And then that way the bird-friendly glazing will stay as a separate point because that's usually it's not too difficult to achieve with like decals and different glass treatments, but and different lighting. But for this one, it seems like it's different enough that it could merit its own point. Will that be all right? Okay, thank you. Okay, point 8, consider an indoor amenity space on the roof deck. So that might require a height variance from Lanya. So I don't know if Lanya wants to comment on that in any way. Okay, we'll keep that. Okay, number 9, consider a green roof. Number 10, consider permeable pavers. Okay. Number 11, consider fewer parking spots for the purpose of retaining more mature trees, etc. Number 12, and this is this one I'm not sure if if I got entirely, but the step planting on the lake side, how would we like to word that? I think it was Councillor Eastmer or Kate. I'm not sure which one of you mentioned that one.
I think.
Was it you, Kate? Yeah.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah. Would you like to word that? No.
Consider removing the step planter if the wall is not visible from the lakeside. Does that work?
Okay. So were you able to capture that? Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, does that work okay?
Yes, thank you, Kate.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So this one is also, this is consider additional parking below grade on the deeper side of the site. So like a half level. And
Can I comment on that? It's possible with the width of the building. We did look at it. It's the problem is trying to get like double drive aisle plus a double like loop piece to come through. So we did look at it early on, and it quickly got ruled out due to the complexity to fit it in, but also to try and get it underneath. It would have to go underneath the drive aisle, and then the grades, we'd have to go down so much deeper. Like
it doesn't work, eh? Yeah.
It really doesn't.
No.
Honestly, we looked at every which way, and that's why Jackson and Selena we're gonna work our tails off to meet the 57, the intent, so not having any variances. We did look at the possibility of that, and it really didn't work. We spent probably a good month trying to make it work in various ways. And even if you go and look at the previous submission that came through with the rezoning before we bought the property, they had all their stuff under, like the building was lifted up and they just had it all under building surface parking. So it was a bit different. So, and it was a hotel. And I think they even struggled to make the parking numbers work greater than what was needed. So honestly, we can leave it on there, but our comment coming back is going to be that the underground parking doesn't work. We'd be better off to take some of the considerations that have been made about going to a single retaining wall, which would gain us another parking stall or two outside, maybe probably do more of the permeable paving stuff to reduce the environmental impact. But honestly, we won't be able to do the another layer of parking under. So it's a lot of the other stuff you guys have said makes complete sense, but the parking under the building will not work. 100%.
Will not work. Okay. No, I appreciate that, Jeff. You know, with the amount of development that's been happening in Nanaimo, especially for commercial sites, there has been a lot of comments about lack of parking and people actually losing business because there isn't parking available in front of their units. So with this site where it's, you know, you have residents and you have a business that's happening, I would recommend doing a traffic study just to make sure that it all works, right?
Yeah, but again, this business isn't quite like a commercial retail space where we need parking out front for this. We've already we'll be managing the residents. There's at least 17 to 20 stalls we'll give to them, but we can manage. Like, we know what our volume is and what kind of parking that comes and goes. Like our parking here in our current office with Harold next door, with the building next door, there is street parking out front, which is one thing, but for the most part, we don't have a big parking issue here for our type of business. I do have sentiment towards like commercial businesses where they rely on customers coming and going frequently. But we've not had a single issue to date with our parking here, and we're going to have more next door than we have here. So I think a traffic studies not do much good in the way of, because it's not impacting the street.
Okay, Jeff, I will leave this in the capable hands of Lanya and the city of getting into the 57. Okay, 13th recommendation is to create something complementary to that rear facade on that exposed concrete wall, whether it's by pattern or by whatever means to complement the rest of that facade in the interim of that the plantings coming in. So that's 13 recommendations total for this evening. Okay. And I would like to say that the project is very nicely thought out. It is a lovely site, and I appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation. Okay, so without further ado, do I see any reservations regarding the parking or any of the other variances from anyone? No? Okay, that's great. Okay, so with that in mind, can we get a motion to approve these 13 recommendations along with the variances as listed? Okay, Angie, seconder, Harry. Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, thanks all.